My name is Ron Husband, and I've been in feature animation at Disney for 38 years, before I retired in 2013. It's been a enjoyable, pleasurable experience, particularly with all the talent that I've had the opportunity to work with throughout the years. My longevity at the studio, 30 years in feature animation, another 8 in Disney publications. And part of I think would be, never give up and try new things. I think that was sort of in preparation, and being versatile, being able to do a number of different characters. When I went to the Disney studio, I knew nothing about animation. I nothing. My very first day there, I started learning animation. Yes, I had no idea what an animator was, what an animator did. I had no idea whatsoever. I come out of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I went there to football scholarship. I wanted to be a commercial artist. My portfolio reflected that. I took a job doing block diagrams and flow charts in the technical illustration department at Honeywell. And after about a year and a half, I said if I want to do more creative things, I would be around creative people. And so I took a class at Art Center at night, and my instructor was a guy by the name of Sam McKim, who worked at WED. Mr. McKim got me an interview with Eric Larson, who looked at my portfolio and concluded that, hey, this is okay, Ron, these illustrations and whatnot, but what we want to see is quick sketching, human and animal, movement, life. I had not included any of that in my portfolio. I had no idea that that's what they were looking for. My high school art teacher, in 1967, she encouraged the class to carry a sketchbook and do quick sketches in the sketchbook. And I took that to heart, because I know that was my junior year in high school, because the very next year, later on that year, my junior, she kicked me out of class. I was being a jerk, so I deserved to be kicked out. But I took her advice, carried a sketchbook, and when Eric told me that that's what they were looking for, I went home and got 3 sketchbooks and dropped them off at the guard gate on Buena Vista, addressed to Eric, and shot back to work, because I went on that interview on my lunch hour. And so they called me up about a couple of days later, and they said, the studio said, I could start into the trainee program anytime I wanted, based on my quick sketches that was able to capture movement and life. But it was just maybe potential that I could learn squash and stretch and timing and gags and all the stuff that goes into to making an animator. Because I was hired on potential, because I knew nothing about animation. I could just draw, and so they hired me on potential. Because once you were in the trainee program, it wasn't a program that was designed to weed you out. If in 4 weeks you had to produce a little short, rough pencil animation, and they showed it to a review board of seasoned animators and management, and said, this guy's got potential, or this person doesn't, so he's out the door. And so if you pass that first 4 weeks, then you get extended another 4 weeks to come up with another little short, rough pencil test. And if you pass that test, then the animation department was in the animation building on the 2nd floor. And so on the 1st floor, they were doing the production. They were working on the rescuers at the time. So if you passed the 2nd test, then you were sent downstairs to learn animation, doing in-betweens for animators. And I was, and so when it opened up to have space, I have a room for some of the trainees who had passed the program. Glenn Keane and I were roommates, and he was doing in-betweens for Ollie Johnson, and I was doing in-betweens for Frank Thomas. And that's literally how I learned animation. But basically, I said, just my ability to draw got me there, and being versatile, having to do crowd scenes and incidental characters and not complain about it. It's like the least thing that an animator wants to do. You want to do the meaty, the dialogue and all the heavy acting, but for years, I did crowd scenes and incidental characters, and being told, you never animated here at Disney. You get the management said, Ron, Hanna-Barbera, Filmation, but you'll never animate here. You've been told you'll never do anything other than crowd scenes and incidental characters. Management will tell you that. That's what I got told. You can't draw. It says right here, you can't draw. But even though you get some negativity, you just keep on plugging. Just keep on doing your job. Because I get paid to do what I love to do. So I never went to work a day in my life. I got paid to draw. But again, being prepared, preparation. And for me, the ability to draw and spending time understanding the muscles, the skeletal structure, what's underneath the skin, being able to draw convincingly, to be able to animate and timing and all the things that go into animation. Well, the same things, similar things go into an illustration, because a good illustration is going to give you silhouette value. It's going to give you balance, proportion, perspective, which I'm looking for in my quick sketches, which plays over into animation, because you have to have all those things plus more in animation, because in illustration, it's storytelling. In my quick sketches, I'm trying to tell a story quickly, because that's what they are. They're quick sketches done, in 60 seconds or less, which can you get down on paper. But it's storytelling. And then an illustration, you're telling a story, but it's more refined. You're putting a little bit more time in an illustration, but same principles of silhouette value, proportion, perspective. And then in animation, those same things are true, except for now, it's about storytelling, because in an illustration, you're telling a story in one drawing, but in animation, you're telling a story in a series of drawings. For me, I wasn't that odd that, I'm playing center field next to Willie Mays and Roger Maris. I'm looking and I got a job to do. I keep my eye on the ball. I got to catch the ball. I got in betweens to do. I got a job to do. And to the best of my ability, I'm gonna do these in betweens for Frank, and Frank would give me little scenes to do. That free him up to do more, acting and more difficult scenes. And so he'd give me little simple scenes to do. So while I was doing my in-betweens for Frank, for an 8-hour day, then on weekends and lunch breaks and my own time, I do these scenes that he'd give me. And I had about 51 feet on Rescuers when it ended. So even though I was doing animation, little scenes, they all went back to Frank, because I didn't hit that 100 feet mark. So if I hit 100 feet, then I already got screen credit and I got paid from because it's union, so you'd be a different category. But I said, as long as I was an in-betweener, that's what my category was. And even though I was doing some animation, I wasn't getting. I wouldn't be recognized until I hit that 100 feet mark. That was where it was. It's probably a combination of all that that you mentioned about how we would translate a particular scene that would be given to animate, and putting oneself in the position that you're trying to draw. If you got a character that's reaching for something, well, how would I reach? What would be the dynamics and the analysis of action? Where would my weight be? If I was reaching for something, or if I got hit or was going back, what kind of steps would I take? So the acting trying to work out the acting, and I think what Eric would call the business. This guy, the business that he's doing. What's that going to take, and how long is it going to take for a character to do a particular action? And you get your exposure sheet. That's going to give you a pretty good idea of how long the scene is going to be. And so, how much time do I have to actually act out this action, and get a drawing that's gonna say sad, or I'm really happy and I'm excited, and we everybody's got the mirror, when you're looking in the mirror and you're making faces, or you're trying to mouth out the dialogue and see what the mouth shapes are doing as you're trying to line it up with the dialogue track, listening to the dialogue track and trying to pick up any nuances or anything that's going to help you to bring this scene to life. What I had always, what I did through my career, and I think it's probably helped the longevity of it, is that when I'm given a scene by the director, and the director is giving me directions as to what he wants out of this scene, and really taking those notes to heart, and thumbnailing out the scene, which is basically thumbnail is a glorified quick sketch for me, but just to thumbnail it out and to take those thumbnails and those little sketches to the director and let him visually see what I have in mind to do with the scene that he wants to tell his story, and getting the okay in the sense that that problem is solved because I'm giving him what he wants. And so it gives me the opportunity to animate with some authority, not so much authority, but assurance that the director okayed this, and I'm going down the road that he okayed, because ultimately this is the director's picture. This is the director's vision. This is what he wants to see on the screen. So it's not for me to, I like this, and let's put this in here. Let's add this here, and I'll show it to the director, and that's not quite what I wanted. So I've never walked that path, because at every step along the way, from the initial discussion with the director, putting down in thumbnail form what the direction that he gives me, going back and maybe probably doing the scene roughly on 4s or 8s, taking it to the director and showing him, without in between, just the length of the scene, and just showing him how I am interpreting what he says, and he said, okay, yeah, that seems to be working. Then getting it in between and working further, then showing him again, again in the rough stage, the direction I'm following, the direction he's given me. So I'm not a lone ranger out there doing my own thing, and then he sees it for the first time and says, "This is not what I wanted." But yeah, every director I've worked with, that's been my my approach. To be able to make sure that I'm following the director's direction, because that's why he's a director, because he's the one that's going to give you directions as to where he wants this to go, because it's his picture that he's making, and I'm just helping him make his picture. When I first went to the studio, I remember Eric Larson. Again, Eric was the head of the whole training department, and he was saying, he told the whole group, not just me, but the group, that half your time should be spent analyzing the scene, and the other half animating the scene. So if you got a scene that's going to take you a week, then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday by noon, you're thumbnailing, you're listening to the soundtrack, you're timing, you got your stopwatch, you're timing it out, maybe you have somebody act the scene out for you, because not only have you acted out and saw the stress points and things that you have to do, but you get somebody to actually act that scene out for you. And I know, one instance, I had T-Dan Hofstad was in the room next to me. I had him. I had a scene in Hunchback where Jolly butts Phoebus in the butt, as he's walking away. And so I had T-Dan act that out for me as if he was being, butted from the rear by a goat, and doing little thumbnails of that, and working that out ahead of time. So I'm not just, off the top of my head, how's that get, how it's going to be feel, but to actually see that and visually have a visual and doing thumbnails of that. But again, working out a scene ahead of time, and then the other half, I'm animated with confidence. That I know this is going to work because the director has given the okay, and so now I'm just fulfilling and doing what he's already seen. Yeah, quick sketching for me has been the lifeblood of my my artistic endeavors. A big part of animation has been action analysis, where you analyze the action. What takes place when you take a step? What takes place when you bend down? What takes place when you stand up? And by quick sketching over the years and being a people watcher, I've learned a tremendous amount of about the dynamics of the human as well as animal. The quick sketching is not like sketching in a sketchbook where you take 10, 15 minutes to do a sketch. A quick sketch is done quickly. The emphasis on quick. 60 seconds or less. What can you get down on paper? So you're getting down to the bare bones. And there's only 4 basic shapes. You got a square, a circle, triangle, and a rectangle. And everything else is a combination of those shapes. And so now, what are you looking for in a quick sketch? You're looking for those basic shapes within the shape that you're sketching, and and laying a good foundation. Again, silhouette value, perspective, proportion. A sketch that's literally telling a story, but it's just done quickly. And people say, Ron, you ought to write a book about that. You ought to write a book about that. I'm too busy. And eventually I said, okay, I am, because I started teaching in the same concept that I'm talking about, squares, silhouette value. So gee whiz, I'm teaching these concepts, so I'm gonna put these concepts in writing. So I took 5 years of after work, and I came up with with my book on quick sketching and trying to put into text, all the things that you look for within a quick sketch. When you're trying to people sitting, people standing, people running, balance and proportion, things that are important in illustration as well as animation. It's less, you go back to the basics. Look for basic shapes. You're doing this in a quick manner, getting down the most information in the least time possible. Because these are just lines, and and what are these lines saying? Giving you information. Because drawing is information. Because you're getting information. Every line you put down is not an important line, but the lines you put down should be giving you accurate information. Thumbnail sketches are just quick sketch on steroids. They're given they're quick sketches with a purpose. Because the purpose is to explain the scene that's taking place, and then translating that into animation. Because again, the same basic principles that are used in quick sketch, are used in illustration, are used in animation. There's no difference. It's just the amount of time that is spent in each one of these areas. Quickly, a little bit more time on illustration and a lot more time in animation, but it's all about storytelling.